Hi, class. I sometimes question this book's titles as far as their chapter goes. As we approach Module 7, it talks about how does gender impact the people you spend time with? Well, it's a good thing to ask, does it affect the people you spend time with? Because the answer is really yes. It does impact who you spend time with, but in very different ways. So this chapter is looking at how it affects those times. Now, I start out here with the module and say, who is your first friend? For beyond my sister, who my mother always hoped we'd be friends, and I'm only learning to be her friend now. And my cousins, which, by the way, were around me at all times. We really were very close, all 19 of us. It was really the boy next door, Michael Thoman. And he was cute. He was young. We played cowboys and Indians together. We roughed house we played. But he really grew up to know it wasn't cool to have the girl next door as his best friend. And so we came apart in that process, and his parents moved away to another part of town, not too far. Our parents stayed friends. And a number of years later, a lot of years later, before I started high school, my parents also moved. And we were within 2 miles of their house, and their house happened to be on my way walking to high school. Yet we never made that connection again. We never formed those strong relationships because by that time, life had changed. I want you to think through this chapter very carefully as you think of the social interconnections that occur. Now, we're talking about gender throughout this course, but you need to think sociologically as well. What else is going on that makes gender more than just social stratification or race or everything else that is involved with who we make friends with and how we date and how we move forward. So a quick run through the PowerPoints for you. Let me move them over here for you. And let's just kind of explore some of the issues. As we begin this chapter, we look at gender of friendship and dating. And it looks at this network of friends and kin that often overlap. Yeah, like my cousins, and how we hold this particular relationship at the highest form. I think it's interesting as we vary in societies that levels of friendship can be more important with people in the society than those who become part of that marriage and that dating relationships. Now think about this as in times that are the pre-set up who you date or these arranged marriages. Friendship is learned in that process, and those outside networks sometimes still become the strongest ties. And we'll see that difference as you explore that. Now, the trouble with friendship is that sociological research hasn't focused on friendship. And it's difficult to define who's your friend. We have workplace friends, we have people we do activities with, we have people in common that we maybe do church activities with, and so there's no clear definition. And then we're talking about involuntary, and formal and personal relationships. And so the description has not come well into place. And it's not just sociology who has a problem with this, because psychology, when we look at friend interaction as they address it, but even the understanding in general of who makes a friend and how we maintain those friends. But with that said, we need to look at this gender of friendship. There's a strong feminization of friendships in the Anglo-European societies. We put a lot of emphasis on this as a feminine characteristic, and it emphasizes the intimacy and trust, caring and nurturing that are preconceived to be in this process. But historically, friendship is a very much a male situation as well. Then the characteristics of friendship for males were bravery and loyalty and duty and heroism, and their lives were more public than women, so we could see these pursuits and this strong bond of friendship. Now we can go even back further when we look at the relationship of men in Greek society, and that a friendship with another man was considered a much higher level of love than to the opposite sex. And that those relationships were looked at as a very different level. Now, remember too that focus historically is on men's lives and not on women's. And we see this crossover that occurs. So, gender differences in friendships, there are similarities in both men and women. What they desire from their friends is intimacy, acceptance, trust, and help. Women's friendship tends to be more face-to-face, and men are more side-by-side. Now, we're going to talk about communication down the road and the work that comes along of Deborah Tannen, and she'll show how these develop in her research as a sociologist looking at, and a linguist in that process, exploring the differences between men and women and how we build this relationship at a very different level. Now, you're going to be watching some videos for this particular module, and you're going to start seeing about social networks. Women tend to have more people in their social network than men. The loyalty, though, however, is dependent on the individual. So, a lot of things for you to read here, but let's talk about these social networks I just brought up. Men and women have developed different types of friendships because their social structure of their lives. So we often, when we study men's friendship, they are tied to their work or tied to their activities. Okay? Now, as women have entered the work field, more of their friendships too are tied to these areas. In the past, they were stronger, perhaps more developed in the process. And now we're seeing these networks come across more similar because they are both facing that work world. So interesting research is still going on in this area as we start to explore it. But gender is a key structural influences on the number of friends. Women have more. The quality of friendship. Women often are considered a higher quality relationship, and how important those friendships are. Now, with that statement, when we think about heterosexual relationships and men to women, as men and women marry, men will consider their wives their best friend. And that we see that men will gravitate to that strong sharing bond with that one woman and not have the strong bonds of other male friends in their picture, where females will continue to have their spouse as their friend, along with sharing this network of women out there. So as we compare the issues, we have to look at geography, we have to look at work and race, class, that all are part of it beyond gender. Right? And all of these come together in how we explore things. Now, we're going to look at family soon. And this really ties into that background as well of what we're picking up in family. And you can see all these sociological influences coming to place as we explore how we build these relationships. So gender similarities. Social networks of gender claim that gender is a residual effect on the network in which people are embedded in, and women's friendships are determined by where they work and their social economic class, not just their gender. So that comes back to what I've already said before. As we start seeing changes in women's relationships, they are tied to work as well as tied to these other relationships. We've got this gender friendship studies out there, and Walker found the construct of gender was in everyday life, that men and women do go about forming and sustaining friendships differently. However, gender ideology sometimes contradicts the actual experience. And 75% of the men in her study reported engaged in non-gender behavior, such as intimate sharing their stories. My husband and I owned a gas station for 4 years, and I often worked on cars, but it was interesting to be outside of that realm as my husband was working, and how men talk over their car engine hood. Again, think about that face to face or side by side. If they're busy working together, then they're sharing some of these intimacies along that. Where in her study, it really shows that there still is this bond that comes into place. Now, 25% of women in her study reported not sharing information with their friends. And again, think of how socialization comes into place, that this may not always just be a gender issue, but what family came out of, how you were treated, and how it comes into place. You know, concluding that social class needs to be taken into account is very important. And knowing what situations people can place themselves in become those strong issues of exploring what friendship is. Now, friendship in a global perspective, right? There is a different look based on what cultures we come from, what backgrounds, and what influences are out there, and how much we can strive to get there. Think of the relationship that children have on sports teams today. You're building this level of friendship and trust, and all of those situations come into place. And so we really look at how this line of friendship and other type of relationships that involve love and affection vary the lines and explore those different levels, and how strong we need someone else in that process. As I said, we'll come back and we'll look at the strong issues of family and the fictin that are symbolic family members. They are that close that they become your brother or sister, your parent, your extra parent in the process, and that level of involvement that are so important. Now, this chapter goes on to explore the difference of gay men and their friendship, and to look at the rules of attraction as we start tying into dating and courtship. I think it's important that these are how we look at the roles we play in courtship come into place. You know, is it appropriate for a woman to ask a man out on a date? What becomes the new society, and the changing from coupleness to going together and going out as a group, and now the definition of hooking up, which are defined as sexual encounters that usually last one night between two people who are strangers and only acquaintances, not friends. Therefore, the sexual encounter. However, even since this text was written, hooking up sometimes doesn't even refer to sexual encounters with some of the current population, that it's getting together, enjoying the perspective of looking at so many things. So you have a lot to look at in this chapter. And as you start beginning into this friendship and developing relationship by looking at love and how we view love and how culture sees marriage, and does marriage have to have this friendship and love into place, and what's the gender of love and the romanticness of love. So I'm leaving you with a lot of information here as you pick that up in your text, but I want you also to explore some very, very interesting issues. Now, if you haven't seen this video before, it's important to look at it. How attraction is different based on gender. And you'll find that that's the first movie here. Now, for those of you who have taken online Sociology 2232, you've seen this video. If you've taken in the classroom, you've probably not seen it. We get so many other things that come into place. But it's an important piece to look at the scientific viewpoint of why we're attracted to different people and how attraction is at the heterosexual level. The other videos here are TED Talks, and the one is about social networks. They're a very important part as we develop friendships and we reach out. Who's part of your social network, and who's the primary people in that social network and the secondary? For some of you, I'm a secondary member of your social network. I am that outer person out there that we don't have this strong relationship. And yet 3 of you are majors in this class, and we have a much tighter perhaps relationship in the fact that we've done a lot of advising, looking at your future, and we develop a level of beyond just faculty to student, but mentor and friendship in the process. These social networks are interesting as we start to explore. Now, the other 2 videos too are YouTube videos. TED Talks. And the one focuses on what love is and the weird science of love. And it's Helen Fisher, the anthropologist, that you will have picked up a little bit from in Attraction. And some of her work on love, very scientific as we start looking at how the brain functions when people are in love. And the final left with it is to look at dating online and how to look at that particular system. As usual, you have a discussion board and you have 3 gender exercises to pick from chapter 6. So 2, 4, or 5. And I don't know why it's popping up as a discussion, but I'll make sure that's right. Anyway, have a great week.